Yeah,
Mr. David
yeah.
Olds has the New England Patriots visor on. Just met in
Right.
Tampa, and
Yeah.
Tampa and New England just played Sunday night. So I'm sorry for that, my man. But very happy to have you on the show. Been a fan of yours from a distance, so it's nice to meet in person and connect in Tampa
Yeah,
at
yeah.
the Family Mastermind event.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, man. You're doing a ton of business, have awesome coaching, an event coming up, which we're going to outline and have in the show notes for everybody. But to give context, just to kick this thing off, and even to learn more about you myself before we start recording here, would love to hear how you got into real estate. And then that'll kind of transition into what your business looks like now, just doing a ton of deals per month and all over all over social and everything like that. And glad to have you on the show.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you the most cliche thing ever. I was in an
Love it.
airport in the bookstore, and I was roaming around, and I was waiting for someone to arrive, and I picked up Rich Dad Poor Dad. Right.
Perfect.
Again, I tell you that, and it just feels like the dopiest thing ever when I tell people that story. I was just wandering through the aisles, and just grabbed it, leaning on the rack, and just started reading. I'm like, oh, this is really great. So I bought it and took it home. Right. So like so many other people, that was my introduction to real estate. And so I was in Central Florida. I was working for a company called Cox Lumber, and what they were a lumber distributor, family-owned company in Florida, kind of like 84 Lumber, Pro Build, something like that. And I actually ran their mill shop where we made doors and molding and stuff like that. But yeah, so in the book, in the end, he says, if you're interested in real estate, go online and find a real estate investment group. And I said, oh, okay, I'm not that smart, but I'm really good at following directions. So this is in the early days of like web crawler. Like I don't even think this is early to mid 2000s. So I got on there and I'm like real estate group, and a wholesaler's website popped up. And I'm like, okay, I can figure out what this is. He's selling properties. And in the resources, it had click here to join the Central Florida Real Estate Investors Group. And I said, oh, like, well, that's weird that like this guy who's selling properties would be telling people how to go learn to buy properties, but okay. Like, okay. So I clicked on it, and they have this website, which, for the day was probably pretty fancy. And it said, we hold meetings at the Bumby Theater in downtown Orlando, like on the first Wednesday of every month. So I'm like, okay. And I actually lived in DeBary, Florida at the time. So it was about a 30-minute drive. So man, I'm all excited. I'm doing what the book says. I drive down there, and so CFRI was at the time was like the third or fourth largest in the country. So it was huge, right? Outside this old theater where they held their meetings, there had to be 300 cars, right? So I pull in the parking lot, and there's, we buy houses, we sell houses, realtor, I'm the inspectigator, hard money, soft money, everything. And I got to tell you, I drove through the parking lot real slow, and I was too afraid to go in. So I drove all the way down there, and I just chickened out. Like, I'm like, oh, I can't go in here. I don't belong. Like, it's just not for me. These are like real experienced investors. And so I drove home, and my wife's like, how'd it go? I'm like, oh, couldn't find it. Couldn't find it. I'll try again later. And so I think that was like, I want to say it was like July. I remember I didn't go the next month, but the month I did go was September, because that's my birthday. And so I went down there, like, so for 60 days, I'm like, I'm going. I'm trying to mentally just psych myself up to go into this thing. So so I did. I went down there in September, paid my $20 or whatever it was to get in. And man, I'll tell you, like, that one decision that you can make just changes your life. So it's really well put together, organized RIA. Just the one thing that struck me is they did this thing called Deal of the Month, right? And so I'm sitting there, and of course I'm by myself with my little notepad, and I'm taking notes, trying to learn. And I remember this old guy got up, and he had to be like 90 years old, right? Florida, 80 pounds, overalls, like everything but the grass sticking out of his mouth. And he's like, hi, my name's Bob. And everybody's like, hey, Bob. And he talked about this deal that he was driving out of town. He found this deal and rehabbed it remotely. And at the end of the story, he's like, and I made $40,000. Dude, I sat there in my chair. I'm like, if this guy, this hillbilly who talks like he's got marbles in his mouth, and I'm a great guy, but I'm like, if he can make 40,000, I can make 40,000, right? I'm surely at least as smart as him. And then there's this other girl that got up. That was this Russian girl that was flipping mobile homes. Again, barely spoke English, flipping mobile homes for like $8,000 a piece, just over and over and over again. So what I took out of that was, it was kind of proof of concept, right? Here are other people kind of the same as me, and they're doing a tremendous amount of deals. And that, between that and just, going to the RIA and starting to learn things and paying for, coaching and mentorship and going to all the seminars and all the things, that was sort of how I got my foot in the door and started doing some real estate. And, so it's now we're in the mid to late 2000s, and we're flipping a bunch of houses, doing rehabs primarily. And then for anybody that's been around that long, the market started slowly creeping and slowing down until, just the music stopped in 2008, and it got really bad. So it was a struggle for anybody that was doing the business back then.
Mm-hmm. There's always that proof of concept, like seeing somebody else do it and just telling yourself, okay, if that person can do it, I can do it. And then also the identity, change of identity and habits of seeing yourself, if you're going to the RIAs and talking to people and having those conversations. And I don't know if you're listening to podcasts back there, just reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad and books like that, but you also encapsulate a different identity of like, this is who I am. I do real estate, investing, like everything. So you have that
borrowed confidence, or, that act as if, and then also, I paid to have some mentors and people that I could call and kind of run stuff by. So yeah, we're buying, we're fixing up houses, we're reselling them. But it's the Orlando market in 2006 and 7. And I tell people, like, it was crazier than it is now. Like, now it's close, but it was even nuttier back then.
Was it really?
Oh yeah, because anybody could get a loan back then. It's not like it is. Like, it's crazy now. Like, I sold a property last night for $30,000 over asking for cash for 400. We were listed at 368, and we got a cash offer of 400,000 last night. So it's nutty. But see, back then it was easy for people to qualify for loans. So they were buying 2 and 3 houses with, 250 down. So it was a little bit different. It was going at a really accelerated pace. So when it stopped, it was just like, literally, you just hit the wall. Our last property that we bought in Deltona, Florida, I think I bought it, closed on it in June. It was a probate deal. And back then I did all the work myself because I was younger and had more energy, scraping ceilings, cabinets, all that stuff, laying tile. And we finished like early to mid-November. I called my realtor and she's like, yeah, let's put it on the market in January because you shouldn't list anything between the holidays. I'm like, okay, great. So she came in January and she walked through and she's like, hey, it looks good. I'm like, yeah, I know. It's like, you did a good job. I'm like, I know. I'm like, what do you think I can sell it for? Now, when I bought this property, and because it's Florida, right? So they're all block houses. 1 block over, 2 blocks down had just sold for like 209, and I bought for 99. So I'm like, I'm in the money here. And we knew we were leaving town. We knew we were moving to Chattanooga. So this was sort of my last, the last big hurrah. So she comes in and she says, yeah, so hey, here's some stuff that's sold. I think reasonably you're probably at 153. And like, it's like a cartoon. You hear like like you just hear it in your head. I'm like, what are you talking about? 209, 1 house over, two blocks down. She's like, well, yeah, there's been all these foreclosures and all this stuff. And what I did? I did the dumb rookie thing. I'm like, my house is better. But my house is remodeled. Look at those pictures. My house is better. And she's like, yeah, her name was Shanna. And I'm like, my house is better. She's like, She's like, I don't know. Like, the market's really slowed down the last couple of months. So I'm like, well, I can't sell it for that. I'm moving. Put it out there at 165. She's like, okay. Out the door she went, sign in the yard, like nothing for a month, like no calls, just nothing, because the world was on sale, right? Banks were just, by this time, foreclosures were we were in the swing of things and foreclosures were happening. So banks were just dumping properties. And so I let it go for a month. And I'm like, well, all right, let's go to 155. And she's like, okay, and I think we might've gotten a couple calls, maybe a few showings, but no offers. So now it's another month. And like, I've already told my job I'm leaving. We'd started buying some properties up here. And I said, all right, 145. And then we started getting some offers. But at this point, the analogy I give people, it's like chasing a ball down the hill. Like, where it was yesterday is not where it's going to be tomorrow. And so, fat kid chasing the ball down the hill. And even at 145 now, the market was probably 120, 125. I mean, that's how drastically it fell over the course of a few months, because there was just more and more and more inventory on the market. So why would you buy my property when you know, for $30,000, $40,000 less, you could find something that needs to be remodeled. So we ended up lease optioning it, and I took $5,000 down, leased it out, and we skedaddled up to Chattanooga. But, you know, kind of the lesson that I try to explain to people, like today, right? They're like, oh, we're at the top, we've got more to go, we're falling, we're wherever we are. Like, we don't know. You're not going to know until after we've gone over that crest and we're on the other side. You know, that house that I'm telling you about that I had a problem with, like, I should have saw it 2 or 3 houses before. You know, we had a house that we originally listed at 320 and ended up selling it at 297. And 315, 320 should have been the number. So that contraction was already happening in the market. But when you're in the middle of the hurricane, you don't see it. And anybody who's projecting now, one way or the other, we just don't know, right?
Yeah.
We're all guessing. We're all trying to make the best guess we can. I think we're probably at the top of some plateau. But again, you know, who knows? You know, I didn't think I was going to sell a house for $30,000 over asking either for cash yesterday. So, you know, that's, you know, the good thing about wholesaling and even rehab is that our market cycles are so quick. You know, usually we're in and out before the market can take any kind of a big dip. So, yeah, so we came to Chattanooga. Our goal when we came here, I had just gone to this great seminar from a guy named Dave Lindahl, and he was talking about, you know, how to buy apartment complexes, right? So like every investor, I want to play Monopoly just like everybody else, right? We all start with small stuff and we go bigger, bigger, bigger. We do that. So that was my goal. So I wanted to come up here and start buying duplexes and quads and like up to 10 units, small multifamilies, because I didn't have the confidence to buy anything bigger yet. And so our goal was, we came up here, and of course I came to town with $5,000. It was me, my wife, and my brother. And we came up here to do the business. We left Chattanooga. It's the story of, again, cliche of burn the boats, right? We moved to another city. We picked it for real estate because the market wasn't as bad as any place else, but we knew nobody. Like, I kind of knew one realtor, you know, when we moved here. And our goal was, like, we came here to do real estate. So, you know, this is, again, June of 2009, right? There's no like pay-per-click SEO. Like, nobody's doing that stuff unless you're super high end and have a ton of money. You know, there's no Facebook, there's no, like, none of that stuff exists. You know how you marketed? You drove for dollars, you put out bandit signs, and maybe if you were smart enough to listen to Chris Chico, you learned how to send some postcards out, you know, maybe a yellow letter or two, but that was it. So, you know, we just had to go out there and we worked our asses off every week. I tell people, like, every Friday night we went out and put out at least 100 bandit signs. We buy houses, right? Doesn't sound like much, but if you've ever put out 100 signs, it's a struggle, and it'll take you 3 to 4 hours. So we were just committed. I tell people we were too dumb to quit. We knew what we wanted to do. We were focused on it. You know, wholesaling is what I thought about in the morning. It's what I thought about all day, and it's what I thought about going to sleep. I mean, it was the single most important thing that we were doing. And for me, like, it had to work. Like, I have a wife, I had 2 boys at the time, and 3 fat dogs. So it had to work. Like, there was no plan B. And honestly, that was probably stupid. Like, anybody that, you know, if there was somebody in my life that could have talked some sense into me and said, don't do this. You live in a great house in Central Florida. Stay here, keep this corporate job that you've got, and, you know, keep trucking along. And when things settle down, you should go do real estate. But we did it, and luckily it worked out. But yeah, so all we did was marketing, right? So we're marketing continuously. You know, we're putting out bandit signs. We're driving for dollars. We would come home at night. My wife would send out handwritten letters, handwritten postcards, like any little webinar that we got on that had some new tip or trick or, you know, strategy. We were doing that, and you know, we caught fire right away. We did almost 40 deals that first year, just because we worked really, really hard. And yeah, so you know, again, our goal was to buy a bunch of multifamily stuff. But there was one, like, interesting thing. Nobody was giving loans in 2009 and 2010. You know, the banks were more interested in, I got a gong in my office. Somebody sold some stuff or bought some stuff.
Love it. Let's go.
Yeah, so nobody was giving loans. So one of the things that I sort of backed into, because again, I'd done a bunch of classes and seminars and coaching, is I figured out how to buy things with owner financing. So, and again, like time, right? Like where you are in that time perspective of 2009. So as a wholesaler, you didn't do a lot of marketing to people who had loans because people were upside down, right? The market had shifted so much. And I really don't like short sales. That's not my thing. I'm kind of a yappy. I want to talk to people, not sit in front of, on the computer. But so for some reason I was fortuitous enough to, the lists I was pulling were free and clear, right? Because I got tired of talking to people where we couldn't get a number to wholesale their house.
Mhm. So
I'm pulling free and clear lists. We're doing driving for dollars for vacant stuff. And what was happening is, when they couldn't accept a cash offer, I would say, hey man, do you need all the cash at once? And, again, a lot of things happen in your life. And I don't know, I'd love to say there was some grand plan on how I figured all of this out. But I started buying properties owner financed. And over probably the first 5 years, we bought almost 100 completely owner financed. And now that package is, worth $4.5 million. Depends on who's appraising it. Maybe as high as 5 now. And I think we have like out of pocket $6,000 on all those properties for, 100 doors. So yeah, there's just lots of different strategies and things that you can do and ways to make money in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and the third commonality principle that you have is becoming obsessed too. In addition to the identity and social proof, social concept of seeing other people do it, you became just obsessed. And it sounds like it's just a cycle of going to going to I'm thinking 2021, going to events and learning things and just implementing and taking action and getting after it.
Yeah. And, so yes, definitely single-minded, right? All of us were entrepreneurs, and, to be successful, you've got to be committed to the thing that you're doing, right? If you're going to try to do something just half-assed and part-time, your odds of success are pretty low, right? It's, I'm not saying everybody gets lucky and has a one-hit wonder, but to build something that's sustainable, you've got to have that drive. And the example I would give people, like, if you're a parent and you have a kid and you're upstairs in your house and all of a sudden downstairs you hear, and the only person down there is your 2-year-old, I promise you, how fast you get downstairs, the only thing you're thinking about is getting down to make sure your son or daughter's okay. That's the kind of focus that you've got to have to really excel and be great at this, at least in the beginning, right? Because you're pushing a rock up the hill, and it's in a huge exertion of energy, to get it to where it'll start to roll on its own.
Mm-hmm. For sure. In addition to just that single-minded focus and you guys working hard, putting out bandit signs. I remember that grind when I started out and was putting out bandit signs and everything like that. In addition to that, what do you think has helped you get to the scale of business that you're at now?
So here's what I can say. And this is really true for a lot of, especially real estate entrepreneurs, is it's really important to get out there and be around other people that are doing this business, right? Because all of us, guys and girls, whatever, you're in your house and you're trying to be a wholesaler, and maybe you watch a couple videos, you're trying to YouTube University, which is fine. You can eventually get there, but it's really easy to feel like a man or a woman on an island, right? Like you got your head down, I'm the only person that's doing this business. And I tell people, get around that campfire, right? Get around other people that are doing things. Go to some meetups, go to real estate events, because you'll see that other people are doing this and see their success, not from the sense of, oh, he's doing more than me, but, oh, look, that's possible, right? Same thing with my old guy, Bob, and the Russian girl. Like, be around other people that are doing the business and be inspired by that. Like, oh my goodness, if they're doing this, I can do this too. Right. So, and that's just, for me, it's motivation. Sometimes it's like, how did they get that deal? That's in my market. Why didn't I get that deal? Not from like a jealousy point of view, but like, oh, maybe I need to go back and look and see what I'm doing and try to tweak my things and make it better. So for me, there was a natural growth, right? I came from corporate America, and, I understand teams and running a large retail store in my case. So we always had that desire to grow, maybe not as big as nationwide where we are now, but at least in the beginning, I wanted to get a couple of employees and sort of multiply my time, right? Because there's only so many people I can talk to a day. There's only, you know, when I'm doing it myself, there's only so many signs I can put out, so many sellers I can go talk to, and then turn and flip my hat around and go talk to buyers and go do all that stuff. So, so I knew we needed to put a couple people in those places. And then as I started going, you know, to, you know, like I went down to Tampa, and Kenny Rushing, who's like the original Godfather, who taught the people, who taught the people, who taught the people, who taught the people that are doing it now. You know, I saw Kenny and what his operation was, and I started going, and you know, to an event in San Francisco when Freedom Soft launched, and saw the you know, Dan Merrill and those guys, and you just start going around the country and seeing some of these other things, and talking to other investors, and it's, oh my God, you're doing 60 deals a month. How are you doing 60 deals a month? Right. So now I'm just around a little bit bigger campfire and having conversations with those types of people. And it's very inspiring. And, you know, you can picture in your head how I can do this, right? Like the impossible is now possible.
And isn't it somewhat like the way that you're describing it? And again, a lot of other successful investors and stuff like that, or just successful people in life, it's almost like you put yourself in position to learn and then get the social proof, or kind of raise your thermostat on your identity of what's possible. And then the answers almost come to you automatically in a certain way, or you have certain intuitions towards doing things. And the next thing I kind of want to talk about is how you went from Chattanooga with an original focus on multifamily, started getting into wholesaling, started doing some owner finance stuff, you know, and reaching out to people that had free and clear properties, to doing nationwide. And I'd love to hear, as you answer that, just a snapshot of your business. I love that a gong went off at the office there while we're recording that. Very fitting.
Yeah. So here's what happened. So over, what has it been, 14, 13, whatever, however many years I've been in Chattanooga, 13 years. You know, I've had a variety of different partners and people that I've worked with. So at one point it was, you know, it was my brother, Thomas Morgan, who's amazing. And we had another guy here in town. He left, and now he runs one of the biggest property management companies in the area. So then it went back down to just me and my wife. And at this time I was doing a lot of rehabbing. And again, not that much wholesale stuff, because again, there's only so many hours in the day, right? And I had a smaller team at this point. And, you know, I'd spend a lot of time talking to like new people and wannabe investors and stuff, probably like everybody. And, you know, I have a lot of people that come in my office. I tell people probably 100 people have sat across from me, and, you know, I went to this seminar, Rich Dad seminar, and they said, go find a wholesaler and go talk to them. Right. So I get lots of those people, and I'll usually tell them the same thing, you know, 15, 20 minutes talking about real estate, and I want to work with you. I'm like, fantastic. I'd love to work with you too. Here's what I need you to do. I want you to go out and drive this neighborhood, and I want you to bring me back a list of 100 properties that look like they're vacant. Yeah, I'll do it. No, I'll do it. I'm the guy. I'm gonna do this. We're gonna make $1 million. I'm like, awesome. And probably out of 100, like 4 have ever come back. Right. So, but I did have this one guy. His name's Justin Huggins. He actually owns a title company here now, but he was actually still in college, I think, at the time, or maybe just graduated. And you know, I told him to do that, and he's like, I need some more money. He was in college. I need some more money. I'm like, fantastic. Go put out these signs. You want to put out some signs? Because I don't really want to do it. And you're young and got a lot of energy, right? So let's do that. And then, you know, I'm cleaning out rehabs, hired these fraternity guys to go clean out rehabs. But anyways, he was, you know, super great and just would absorb everything that I told him. And he kept coming back, and he said, hey, I want to do some stuff. And I said, well, you know, go like send yellow letters to duplexes or something, right? And like, he was the guy who actually did everything that I told him to do. And so one day he came in, it's like, hey, you know, is there any way we could do some stuff together? I said, well, how about this? Like, I want to really crank up my wholesaling again, because it's, you know, it's great money and the market's starting to really turn. Let's do this. I will send out all the marketing. I'll teach you how to take the calls, go on seller appointments, lock the contracts up. You bring them back to me, and then I'll sell them. Right? Because selling for me was easy. I have a great database. So, you know, I could sell a lot of stuff with an email. So he did it and was really great at it, and had a real knack for talking to sellers. And I taught him how to present owner finance deals. And so we started, again, expanding out and growing and really just dominating in our local market here. And he was also coachable and teachable, and taught him how to present owner financed offers. So we probably did a couple hundred deals. And over the course of that time, we got some owner finance packages. We had 20, 25 properties that we owned together, 50-50. So that was going really great. And then somebody else comes in, and he said, hey, I'd love to wholesale with you. And I'm like, we're already splitting deals 2 ways. Well, it was 60-40, right? It was me and my wife and him. I'm like Chattanooga's big, but it's not that big, right? There's only 250 in the MSA, the metro area. So I'm like, oh, how about maybe? And I was never a believer in virtual wholesaling because I always thought that you should max out your home market first, right? I think when you go virtual, a lot of people do it because they think it's going to be easier because they don't have to go talk to people, they don't have to leave the house, because that's the story that all the gurus sell.
Right.
But now I had a problem, right? I had another person who was great and smart and wanted to join our business, but I didn't want to whack things up 3 ways here in town because, at the time, maybe, our assignments fees were 10 to 12,000. You know what I mean? It just starts to get small. And I didn't know that if we could accelerate our volume enough to make up for that. So, so we decided, well, let's try Birmingham. His name was Tag. I said, I'll put you on the Birmingham market and I'll try to teach you and we'll do that. And so we started pulling lists, sending postcards to Birmingham, and it was just an utter disaster, complete failure. So we said, well, let's try another market. And we picked St. Louis. Why St. Louis? I don't know. But if you know anything about St. Louis, there's a real big pocket of St. Louis that's horrible. A lot of great places, but there's, I can't remember the part of town it's called, but a lot of just old, abandoned, amazing townhomes that, homeless people live in. And people were really willing to just give us those for like $2,000. I remember like one day we got like 6 contracts in a day. And we're like, we're the best. We're going to be awesome. And I would call buyers up there and like, you could pay me to take it. So lots of learning curves along the way. But so we had the 4th partner, my wife, Justin Tag, myself. And at this point we figured out like, okay, we've got to figure this out, right? Now we've got to figure out how to reach more people and go virtual. So, we were in Brent Daniels coaching, talk to people, right? This is when cold calling first came out. So this is probably 2016, I guess, late 2015, I can't remember. So we got on the cold calling plan. We rented another office next to ours and we built cold calling cubicles, and we went, again, all in like a nitwit, right? Like we're building cubicles and, soundproof drywall, all these things. And we hired a full team of cold callers and an acquisitions team. And, we're doing deals, and then texting came out, right? Texting was the next thing with, who was it? Lead Sherpa, I think back then. So we were all in on texting, right? So we're cold calling and we're texting and we're doing a couple other cool things. But that was kind of the impetus of how and why we went nationwide. Was we just had too many partners to whack up all the deals here in town.
Awesome. And then for a snapshot, what does your current inventory look like? Just to give an idea of how many deals you have on your plate and dispatching at one time.
We're right around like 28 or 29. And I don't know if that gong was one coming in or one going out. So I can't tell you, but yeah, we fluctuate right in there. So it depends on, how many contracts come over from acquisitions and how many get sold in a week. We sold 6 last week. Yeah, we're always fluctuating 25 to 30 right in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Love that. Why has a focus on dispositions been so relevant for you? And I know that there's the story of the 209K comp down in Florida. You have that learning lesson of chasing a ball downhill. But I'd love to hear, why coming from a disposition focus is so powerful in helping you scale a business, and maybe some Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft type systems and processes in having your organization. Yeah. Well, I was saying, Bill Belichick and Rob Kraft, organizational structure in your business that allows you to be successful and, run lean and clean and operate smoothly.
Wow, I would take any comparison to either one of those guys. Well, so here's what I can tell you, and I would think most people are like me, but maybe because I'm dopey, we learn a lot through failure. Again, we and I have failed a lot, and in fact, I told you I was a minute late coming on the podcast here because I was doing some interviews, so I was just explaining this to somebody that we're looking at hiring. We figured every way to mess this up. I love to, when I'm speaking on a stage, I'll put up this thing and it's called like the whiteboard graveyard. So I love writing on whiteboards and hands are always moving, but my employees goof on me because they can tell when we're trying to explain something, I want to go write it on the board. But, I've always believed, my mind works very linear. So I love to sketch out what the processes are going to be for how we're going to do our work, right? So even going all the way back to the very beginning, I had a vision of how going virtual is going to work. And in the beginning it was, oh, we're going to be virtual. We're going to be in 10 cities. I'm going to get JV partners. We're going to split the deal. We'll contract it. They'll sell it. It's going to be fantastic. We're going to be millionaires, like order the jet, like we're ready. And of course, those things don't work. It never works out like you think. So, but part of it works, right? But just 70% didn't. So, again, I'm too dumb to quit. So, we take that, we scrap what didn't work, and we add on what doesn't. Bruce Lee, you take what works and absorb what's useful, discard the rest, and keep building on top of that. So I've got this whiteboard or graveyard of whiteboards that just is the progression of our business over the years. And it's really interesting to kind of look at it and remember kind of how we were going to do things. But anyways, so I tell you all that because we found a lot of ways to fail. And one of them is in how we pay people. And again, I don't have a partner anymore, but we've restructured our company a few months back. But lots of permutations, right? So I've been through on the acquisition side, lots of different ways to pay people. And I hope I'm answering the question. I've gone off on such a tangent now. So what's important is, we found that having a smaller team where everybody's really focused, but that everybody is paid on a commission, not full commission. We use a blended structure. Some guys like 100% commission, some don't. But we have a.
We'd love to hear that. We'd love to hear that structure for sure. This is a good tangent to be going on.
Yeah. So I'll tell you all the bad things. So dispositions have pretty much always been $500 per week and $500 per contract when it closes. And I'll tell you why that's again, I'm all over the map here. So 100% commission guys, that's awesome, right? Because as the owner, you have a low outlay of cash, upfront cash, right? So it's better for me. And I tell every person I'm hiring, it's way better for me to put you on 100% commission. I'm going to pay you more, but I don't have that initial outlay and risk. But for you, you've got a wife, a kid, a dog, a car payment, you want to put gas in your car. It's challenging to expect somebody to work for, like we know in our company, because we keep great KPIs, it's 51.5 days from the time a property's contracted to the day it closes, right? So 51.5 days on average is a long time to ask somebody to wait while they're working really hard and get paid. And maybe that's my personality, that I'm soft. I don't know. It's okay. I can be soft. So I just have empathy for people and I could do it. Like as business owners, we do it. But for our employees that we bring in, it's tough. So anyways, dispositions always been paid $500, $2,000 a month, and $500 per contract. Where that worked amazing for us the last couple of years was we developed a really strong JV business. And the reason JV on my whiteboard didn't work when we started 4 or 5 years ago was because nobody cares as much about your deal as they do their own, right? Mm-hmm. So if I've got somebody in Birmingham or Atlanta or wherever it is, and I send them my deal, no matter how much marketing I do, like we would do the marketing and direct the calls to them, they just didn't care enough about our deals, they did theirs. So because I had been through that learning curve in the past, what I did in our business was they were paid $500 a week, $500 per closed contract. So my dispositions people didn't care which property they were selling. They got paid the same on all of them, right? So because of that, we got a reputation for selling a lot of JV deals. And we did well over $100,000 last year in our side of JV deals. So anyways, so that's how disposition was paid. On the acquisition side, they've been through a bunch, different partners, a bunch of different versions, everything from $250 a week to $250 per contract when it's sold. You should get 3 contracts. You should be making $1,000 a week. And again, we're in Chattanooga, so those numbers don't make any sense to somebody in LA, right? And then we switched from that to, I think, it was like 300 and 200 we were fooling around with. And then we went to a $40,000 salary with $100 per contract, which was an absolute and utter disaster. Because what happens is somebody's making $40,000 a year. Yeah, they love the company, they think we're great, but where's the motivation to put great deals under contract, right? Their motivation is more, I just want to contract 3 deals. I'm going to get my $300 and I'm off, right? And that's just human nature. Not saying somebody's a good or bad person, but we in this business, we run a small business like everybody. I need people that are marching in lockstep with us and have the same end goal. to be, I want them to be successful, and I want them to be a little bit money motivated, right?
Mhm.
So, because that's the thing that's going to help them push, past the barriers. So, tell me the original question again. Again, I've scrolled. I've gone so far.
Dude, you're good. I mean, this is all good stuff to focus on. And you have been answering part of the question, which was
Okay,
like,
cool.
what made you have focus on dispositions kind of being the most important thing?
Perfect. Right. I knew I was going someplace with all this. So what would happen with the acquisitions team, where they were getting paid that $40,000, whether or not it closed or not, it didn't have a big effect on them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, people want their stuff to be successful. I'm not saying that, but like if it closed, that's awesome. But if it didn't, I still got paid. So what was happening is and the same thing with leads. Like they were just like, let's pull all the leads in a county. And so between bad stuff going in the top of our funnel and, an acquisitions department that was set up, not focused on generating revenue, what was happening is we were getting a lot of just trash deals, right? And this is one of the reasons I had to reorganize my company and separate, from the partner that I had at the time, because Dispositions was getting the deals. Anderson, Alabama. I think I looked up, it's like 668 people in Anderson, Alabama. And we have this house, and it's a great house. And any place else, it would be an amazing house. But on the disposition side, because that was the side of the company that I ran, like, okay, like who do you want me to call? The other 600 or 667 people in the town? There's just no buyer, right? So what happened was, our girls, how they did over $1 million last year, I don't know. It was like dragging bricks up a hill because we just had these really crap deals. So when we reorganized, we really set the focus of every person in our company has to understand a couple of things. One, we all start with the end in mind, right? What is the end? It's not that we all wear the same t-shirt or red shoelaces or, any nonsense like that. The end is we cash checks. That's what we do, right? This is what our business, that's what we're here in business for, is we cash checks. Obvious, right? Very, very common sense. But I know a lot of wholesalers where that's not the focus, believe it or not. It's on something else. It's my Podio and website and, all these other things. But we focus on the most important thing, which is cashing checks, and everything works backwards from that. So, I explained not only to my dispo people, but acquisitions and leads. Fantastic. We cash checks, right? What comes before that? Oh, we have to have a cash buyer. Great. Like, does acquisitions understand what a cash buyer is? Do they understand cash is king and blah, 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 all that stuff? I want to buy at a discount. Because how many acquisitions people do you talk to in other companies and like, oh, it's worth 100. I contracted it at 80. It's a $20,000 discount, right? Like this happens all the time. I have students and I talk to them and this is a recurring problem. So if your acquisitions people don't understand that, that $100,000 property, we as a company, like we provide a service to buyers, right? We're here to serve them. And why would they buy our property as opposed to one off of MLS, right? Like an MLS property, they could put 20% down. We want them to put 100% down, right? So why would they buy from us? What service are we providing? Well, it has to be a discount, right? So, that $100,000 property, I've got to be selling for 90, 92, maybe 93 if it's in great shape. So great. Does acquisitions understand that I've got to sell it for this price, that the buyer has to make some money, right? That we have to make some money, and there's got to be some repair money in there for the end buyer to make this a viable property, right? Because buyers want to buy functional properties that they can make money on. So we do a lot of work on making sure that everybody all the way down, all the way to the leads, right? Where are we marketing? Where are we doing our pay-per-click? Where are we doing our SMS broadcasting? Where are we sending out our mailers? Are we sending them to the zip codes where there are buyers, right? Because it makes no sense to carpet a county, and spend $12,000 in postcards if 2/3 of that are going to a rural area, right? So we teach our students to first figure out where buyers are buying. What are they buying? What's their price point? And from there, we work backwards for our leads, but also for acquisitions to understand what the process is. And they want to know, right? Because they're paid a commission on when that property sells. So it's really crucial to approach things from Dispo. I don't know why anybody does it any differently, but that's not how people teach it other than us.
No, it makes a ton of sense. I'm curious real quick before we start talking about your event and being able to work with you as a student. I want to talk just briefly on the best way of growing a quality buyers list.
So lots of different ways to do it. And kind of another thing we say is play all of your aces. So the way that I did it in the early days was, bandit signs, hey, house for sale, 30 cents on the dollar, right? So people are calling in, and we're just creating that database. We do a lot of different things. That we attack dispositions marketing the same way we do acquisitions marketing. We do it exactly the same. So we're sending direct mail to buyers. Lay back up. We have a house at 123 Main Street. Like anybody, we're drawing a radius. We're pulling a list from someplace like PropStream, List Source, Freedom Soft, whatever CRM that you're using, or data source. So we're drawing that circle, and we actually use Investor Lift too. But so we're drawing that circle, and we're pulling in people who are the avatar of who we're looking for, right? So they bought a deal for cash. There's no mortgage. They bought a house that's similar in age, age range. So if our house is 1960, we're 1940 and up. So age, size, and price range. So we're taking that list, and we're doing a lot of different things with it. We're dropping RVMs on them. We're sending them direct mail. We're text blasting them. We're email blasting them. And then our dispositions people while we're waiting for those incoming calls to come in, we're actually making outbound calls too, and we're calling every single one of those. And we sort them by criteria. There's a couple different ways you can sort them. So we're focusing on the highest probability buyers first. So we're doing all of those things, and then we're also, we're posting on Facebook and Craigslist, which still hits amazing. Like we sell one deal a month off of just from Craigslist. So we're doing all of the things that we can do to build that list. So there's no one silver bullet. In the early days, 3 or 4 years ago, when I was hiring our first dispo team, I would get so frustrated. I'd be like, we're supposed to be doing 10 things and we're doing 6. And God bless it, it's never even the same 6 that we're doing, right? Well, we're just all over the freaking map because we don't have any processes or any procedures or anything written down. So it would frustrate me so bad. And even me, right? Like I feel like I'm freaking great at selling properties, but every so often I'd be like, damn, I didn't load this up to the website. What am I doing, right? So if you don't have checklists and things that you're following, chances are you're going to forget something, right? And you never know which marketing channel is going to be the one that really hits for you. So especially if you're a solo person, right, where you're going from marketing in the morning to a seller and then back to the buyers, and you're all over the place. It's so easy to forget. I used to have this little handwritten thing I wrote on some blank paper, and I pinned it up on my walls. Like, this is a simple business. Do not overcomplicate it. These are the things you need to be doing on every deal. So yeah, anyways, building a buyer's list is you have to get out there and do as much marketing as you can. The marketing that we're doing, we try to make it somewhat targeted, that we're targeting the right people. But I want to hit every single one of them, right? I'm not going to just call one guy. Oh, it didn't sell. What should I do now? Or I put one little sign out on the corner and I just sit and wait for the phone to ring. No, we're playing all of our aces, because and it should be in everybody's business, but in my business, we're a very high volume wholesaler, right? Analogy I give people all the time is like, from the disposition side, I feel like I'm on the beach and I'm just watching that tidal wave coming, right? I got to sell the shit that I got last week, because this week I got 7 more coming, right? And next week, 7 more coming. And next week, 5 more, and then 3 more. So, it's like produce at the grocery store. I've got to move out the old stuff to bring the new stuff in. So because of that, we don't take these crazy, like, oh, it should sell for 20. I'm going to jack it up to 40. Like, we don't do that. We're on the in and out business.
Play all your aces. I love it, man. That perspective that you have is just powerful. Just marketing to buyers the same way as sellers. It sounds logical and what everybody should be doing. But yeah, I can tell just the, kind of how you like to draw things out, the linear progression of how the dispositions for your business has ramped up by having that perspective with a importance on buyers and dispositions, and attacking that marketing the same way that you would sellers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't want to leave anything to chance. I don't want to do a couple of things. And because again, we have a contract, right? So I tell people, you should hear in your ear. The second that contract is signed, there's a ticker going, right? You've only got so much time to get this thing moved. And, we know it takes 24 days right now in today's environment to get a property closed, even after I give the title company our buying and selling contract, because refis and the world's busy. So, if I take that 24, 25 days off of a 60-day contract, essentially I've got 30 days. And on the front side, even once I've got it signed, it may take me 2 weeks to get pictures and video in Peoria, Illinois, right? So my window is very small, right? So I've got to price my properties correctly at the jump, and I've got to get them marketed, right? So I don't want to put some Facebook ads up and go, oh, my property's marketed, and I'm just going to sit and wait. And then like I give it a week, and then I'm going to do something else, and then I give it a week and I'm going to do something else, and my time's up, right? Like your time's up. This is why I see so many people with expired contracts. You just, you got to get out there with a shotgun and hit every single person and talk to as many people as you can. So you asked about building a buyer's list. I was talking to one of my students this morning, and I said, hey, you're calling Jim, and it's about this property. And it's okay to say, hey, Jim, this may not be the deal for you, but what are you looking for? Right. So even those people that, every person you get on the phone, you've got to get them in your database. You've got to collect their information. Hey, I get it. This may not be the property for you, but what are you looking for? Oh, you're looking for apartment buildings. Fantastic. I'm putting that in my database, whether you're using Excel or FreedomSoft or REI Black Book or Podio, whatever you're doing. The power of building that database is going to make your life easier down the road. Right. So it's a little bit of work now, but I mean, I can tell you after 12 years of doing this, the buyer's database that we have is it's just incredible, because from day one, I've been doing that.
Mm-hmm. I want to hear about the event you have coming up in 1 month. And also, you mentioned your students a few times, what it's like to work with you on the coaching side and everything that entails.
I hope it's good. I mean, I hope it's good. They're having some success. So, our coaching program is probably like a lot of them. We've got I guess back in the day, we called it a home study course, right? But now there's videos online that kind of walk you through the process from start to finish with all of the documents, all the contracts you can need, all the assignments and, affidavits and, amendments and everything that you could need. But again, we really break it down step by step for you and really simplify it, because I tell people I'm not that smart. So I want it to be in manageable chunks, bite-sized chunks that make sense kind of going from start to finish. So it's not real frenetic, like we're not all over the place. So we have that. And then we have ongoing, mastermind every month where, we meet as a group. Now we're all on Zoom. So we do that at least twice a month. And then, I'm always having, conversations like this morning where one of the girls was having a hard time. But the live event that I decided to do, so I get a lot of questions from other, especially high volume wholesalers. And they're like, hey, do you have training material for my team, not just for me, right? Because the course that we have is kind of geared towards you as the operator, because, we talk about, just stuff that you as the operator would do, maybe not as the actual dispositions person. So what we've decided to do for our live in the office event, which is going to be here in Chattanooga, is to bring your whole team, like bring them all in. If you want to come, fantastic. 3 more people. 4, or just send 4 people off your team and we'll train them, whether they're dispo people, acquisitions people. We're going to train them from start to finish how to do this business. My team will be there. Ask them any question you want. I was telling somebody yesterday, you want to talk to the acquisitions person about how they lock up owner finance and some of the other stuff, go over and ask them. You want to talk to Narissa in my office, who's amazing, that does all the data for us and all the lists on both sides and who she uses for RVM. Go ask her. Like 100% open book, exactly how we do our business. And, we're going to train, if you want to bring your people or if you just want to come by yourself, we're going to train every single person exactly how we do it so that they can take that home and put it to work. And, of course, all the handouts, the contracts, the SOP, all the checklists, all of that stuff. Because one thing that I found, even last week, we were in Tampa, right? Is we're all there, we're at these events, we're taking all these notes and we're trying to remember stuff. And we're taking videos of slides and we're doing all these things, and you get home and you're like, shit, what was I going to tell my team to do? It was going to be the really amazing thing, and I can't remember. Or we get back here and I'm not as smart as some of those guys that were on stage and some of the nuanced things that they were saying, and I don't communicate that really well to my team. So because we've had so many people request it, I decided, what, it's difficult to do Zoom to train people's teams, and I've had people ask me to do that. Because let's be honest, most people on Zoom probably are listening to this podcast have already tuned out because they're tired of me rambling. But when we have them in person, we can answer questions and make sure that they really understand it. So my goal is that when they leave here, they can go back and implement that in their office and in their, in their business.
Love it, man. Well, we'll have all the details for that in the show notes. Love a lot of perspective here on the emphasis of disposition. It reminds me of like if you see the people playing speed chess where they put the piece down and hit the thing. That's kind of like that's pretty much David's day to day here with moving properties from last week to make move. I love the produce analogy too. That's exactly how I see it. You got to move everything out with the new produce coming in.
It will, and even for people that are only doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 deals a month, if we can teach you how to sell faster, one, you're going to generate cash, but you're going to have confidence in your dispo department to sell more deals. So now you're more willing as an owner to invest more money in leads and acquisitions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the worst, you got to be sure you're going to sell it, right? If I'm going to invest, $20,000 this month in pay-per-click, I need to be sure the 4 people on my dispo side can move this stuff. I also need to be sure that acquisitions can lock it up. But, you have to grow those 2 things in tandem and make sure you don't want to waste money, right? We all work hard for our money, and, nobody wants to blow $10,000 on a marketing channel, get good leads, and then not be able to close it, right? Because I know every lead for me costs about $1,800. So, if I was to dump 30 leads 30 contracts this week on my dispositions department, like I don't have enough people over that handle 30 new ones on top of the 30 that I've got. So what will happen is they'll either die, right? Or I'll end up having to just discount them deeply to sell them. So instead of making 20 or 17,800, I think is our average right now, then I'm making $6,000 or $7,000 just to blow them out. And then by the time I pay everybody, and there's just no money left there. So we want to grow smart and scale up in a way that we can be sure we're going to have a return on those dollars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense the way that you described it, as far as it being cyclical with the amount of deals coming out and making money and being able to put that into marketing and make sure there's plenty to eat across there. Well, man, this has been an awesome interview. And again, awesome to meet you. Awesome to meet you last week in Tampa. Do we have any closing words here? I was trying to get some intuition, spider sense, since you went through the last 08, 09 crash to see what you think is coming down the pipeline here, but it sounds like you gave a good answer as well there, that no one will really know until it happens.
This is what I could tell you 2 years ago. I did a rehab in the north part of Chattanooga, and I stopped. After that, I thought we were at the top, right? I thought like, we're at the top, because it was like a $400,000 remodel. I'm like, you know what? I think I'm just going to wholesale. And for a couple of reasons, we had really grown our team. So I want to make sure we stayed in our lane, and all of my attention was on the company. But I'm like, I don't know, man. I just feel like rehabbing might be getting a little risky. And then, starting this year, we did a couple more. And somebody brought me this great deal that I just sold yesterday. We actually have a partner. One of the girls in my office is actually a partner on it with me. And, we'll make like $80,000 on this rehab. So I thought I was smart, man. I thought, I've been through this before. I know the signs, right? I know where it is. And my intuition, as long as interest rates stay low, I think we're going to at least keep chugging along. I don't know that it can keep going higher, right? Like, I don't know, but, I think rehabbing until those interest rates start to rise, and then people, what'll happen is the affordability goes down because, when interest rates go up, their monthly payment goes up. So that's my best guess. But again, I'm not an economist. I'm just, I'm like a caveman wholesaler that's been doing this for a long time. And I just don't, I don't know for sure.
Mm-hmm. I'm not a lawyer. I just play it on TV.
That's right. I did a Holiday Inn last night, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh man, well, great stuff on this interview, David. I'm gonna have fun making an outline for this because we go through a lot of good stuff: mindset, perspective, outline of how to do pay structure for dispo acquisitions, marketing to your buyers as hard and as consistently and methodically as you do with your sellers. So a lot of good stuff here, man. Appreciate you, and very grateful that we have this interview and able to hear some wisdom to our listeners.
Thanks. And thank you so much for having me. I know you have a great audience, and I've listened to the podcast, so I'm really honored to be here.
Yeah, man. My pleasure. Enjoy this one, guys, and we will catch you on the next episode.